The new girl arrives at Lincoln High. The morning fog clung low over Maplewood as Emmeline Harris stepped through the gates of Lincoln High, concealing her nerves beneath calm eyes. Fresh from Detroit, this marked her fourth new school in as many years. A revolving door of fresh starts she barely welcomed. With her brown hair loosely tied back and dressed in familiar, comfortable jeans and a muted sweatshirt, she aimed to blend quietly. No one would guess the secret she carried hidden beneath her modest exterior. A four-time Michigan Junior MMA champion whose striking left hook and ground skills had broken barriers in fierce battles. But coming to a town as small as Maplewood carried its own challenges. While her mother insisted on living normally, far from the spotlight of past victories, Emmeline's instincts warned her that keeping quiet here might not protect her. The halls of Lincoln were already filled with whispers and unspoken rules, governed by Briar Turner and his gang, Kellen Voss and Jasion Merrick, his right-hand men, who made sure newcomers understood their place. When Briar's broad shadow loomed over her first lunch, breaking the fragile peace, their loud introduction was less an offer of friendship and more a challenge masked as a threat. $5 a day for protection, Briar said with a grin that did not reach his cold eyes. Figure it out, new girl. Emmeline's fingers clenched into fists beneath the cafeteria table, the memory of past fights flashing behind her steady gaze. Promise to her mother held her back, but inside, a fire kindled, fueling her resolve not just to survive, but to rewrite the rules. The bullying escalated quickly. Scattered books crushed under dirty boots, shoves that collided painfully against brutal walls, and the infamous soup incident that drenched her in humiliation before half the school. Watching the laughter and whispers, Emmeline's heart beat not with fear, but a cold, determined calm. Every moment of training under the watchful eye of Coach Thaddeus Crowe replayed within her. The lessons in control, precision, and most importantly, restraint. Unseen muscles tensed, preparing what next step to take. A late afternoon confrontation in the deserted parking lot sealed the confrontation with Briar. His arrogant sneer failed to mask the flicker of uncertainty when Emmeline proposed a one-on-one fight. Her freedom or his victory with a higher daily payment. The night air thickened as Briar lunged with the force of assumed dominance. But Emmeline moved with calculated grace, turning his power against him. The sharp snap of her forearm blocking his strike was swift and precise, followed by a left hook to his solar plexus so powerful he crumpled with gasps, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "Never underestimate your opponent," she whispered softly, the weight of years behind the jab, her strength held in check but unmistakable. From that day, the corridors of Lincoln High shifted. Brian Turner's dominance waned as respect replaced fear. Surprisingly, Briar became a reluctant ally rather than a tormentor. At the same time, Serafina Martin, a natural leader among the girls, approached Emmeline with concerns about a growing threat. The West Side gang led by Tavian West, notorious for menacing classmates after school. With Michaela Andis and others by her side, Emmeline's secret training blossomed into teaching, spreading self-defense techniques to empower about 20 students. Their encounter with Tavian West and his gang near the bus stop was swift and decisive. The bravado of 5 large seniors faced the unexpected, Emmeline's protective instinct exploding into rapid, precise strikes. Within seconds, her friends were shielded, and the aggressors fled, nursing bruised bodies and pride, their new respect tinged with fear. Word spread quickly. The quiet girl carried a storm beneath her calm. In the weeks that followed, the school transformed. With the guidance of Coach Crowe, Emmeline formalized her self-defense sessions, gradually gaining support from teachers and even the principal, Mr. Anderson. He proposed integrating self-defense into the physical education curriculum, acknowledging the importance of such skills in today's world. Emma's leadership slowly permeated beyond martial skills. Her message of strength, control, and respect resonated deeply through the student body. The story of Emmeline's fight with a professional sparring partner at a regional MMA showcase captured local attention, further cementing her status as an extraordinary young woman. Her refusal to exploit this fame for personal gain reflected maturity beyond her years. Instead, she focused on her studies and growing role as a mentor and protector within Lincoln High, transforming not only her life but the lives of countless others. As Briar Turner moved from bully to protector, supporting younger students and himself changing as a person, the entire atmosphere evolved into one of mutual respect and courage. The final blow to the old order came with Jason Miller's legal troubles, drawing public scrutiny but ultimately reinforcing Emmeline's resolve. Her courtroom testimony, grounded in honesty and controlled strength, made a statement far beyond the trial walls. True power resides in knowing when and how to stand firm. The months passed, and with increasing confidence, Emmeline prepared for college. Her journey, marked by growth from the shadow of silence to the light of leadership, inspired those around her. As she faced new challenges, including threats from Jason's family and their attempts at revenge, her determination only hardened. She understood that protection came with responsibility, not only for herself but for everyone counting on her strength. On graduation day, as she addressed her fellow students, Emmeline reminded them all of the lessons learned. To embrace their authentic selves and to stand up for justice and kindness, regardless of fear. Her words echoed beyond Lincoln High, a call to courage for all who'd face adversity. Briar Turner's final acknowledgement and gratitude marked a full circle. Where once was conflict, now stood respect and friendship. From a fledgling newcomer to a beacon of strength and compassion, Emmeline Harris's story had only just begun. With the support of allies like Serafina, Michaela, and Coach Crow, and the lessons etched into her spirit through each battle, she was ready to confront whatever lay ahead, stronger, wiser, and unafraid. The next chapter in this extraordinary journey awaits. Challenging the school's iron fist, Briar Turner stood at the entrance of Lincoln High's crowded cafeteria, his broad frame commanding attention the moment he stepped inside. Flanked by his two loyal enforcers, Kellen Voss and Jason Merrick, he scanned the room like a predator seeking his prey. His eyes locked on Emmeline Harris, who sat quietly at a corner table, focused on her untouched lunch. Briar's voice cut through the hum of conversations as he barked, "You really think you can walk through here without paying your dues, Emmeline?" His tone was gruff, dripping with menace. The room fell into a hush, all eyes turning toward the brewing confrontation. Emmeline slowly lifted her gaze, meeting Briar's glare without flinching. Her voice was steady, carrying a quiet resolve. "I'm not giving you anything, Briar. You don't own this school." Briar's expression twisted into a sneer. "Not giving me anything. You're new here. Everyone plays my game. $5 a day keeps you safe." Kellen chuckled, stepping forward, his sharp eyes assessing Emmeline with lazy calculation. Jason cracked his knuckles, eager to escalate the situation. The unspoken threat was clear. Resistance was not tolerated. Yet Emmeline remained composed, though inside a storm of conflicting emotions brewed. Her promise to her mother echoed in her mind, a tether restraining her from explosive retaliation. "I don't want trouble," she said softly, hoping to diffuse the tension. Briar leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear. "You don't get to decide that. You either pay or you suffer the consequences." The cafeteria stayed silent as Emmeline clenched her fists beneath the table, muscles trembling not from fear but fury. Briar's words were a challenge, one she could no longer ignore. The subtle buzz of anticipation swelled among the students, sensing the inevitable clash. Later that day, Emmeline met with her mentor, Thaddeus Crow, in the quiet sanctuary of the school's empty gym. His eyes were sharp, but kind as he listened to her recount the morning's encounter. "Briar is testing you," he said, pacing thoughtfully. He thrives on fear and compliance. But your strength, physical and mental, can tip the scales if you play it right. Emmeline absorbed the wisdom, recognizing that confronting Briar meant more than a simple fight. It entailed strategy, control, and knowing when to reveal the power she had long kept hidden. Crow's patience reassured her, yet she knew that appeasement would only embolden her foes. The following morning brought a new wave of intimidation. Briar, Kellen, and Jasion cornered Emmeline as she walked through the bustling hallway. Briar's smirk was colder than ever. "Decided to reconsider," he taunted. Emmeline's voice was firm. "No." Kellen stepped forward, blocking her path, his bulk a daunting barrier. "That's a pity." Jason's grin widened maliciously. "Maybe you need some convincing." The trio's combined menace deepened the crowd's unease. Whispers spread, some students curious, others wary, but none dared intervene. Emmeline's resolve hardened. She would not yield to fear or extortion, no matter the cost. Serafina Martin, leader of the school's close-knit group of girls, caught wind of Emmeline's plight and immediately sought her out. At a discreet corner in the library, Serafina's unwavering gaze met Emmeline's. "You don't have to face them alone," she asserted. "We're with you. We've seen how Briar operates, and we won't stand for it anymore." The alliance sparked a flicker of hope within Emmeline, who had long felt isolated. Michaela Anders, a friend from the self-defense classes, soon joined them, her presence radiating quiet strength and determination. Together, they concocted a plan to confront the bullying with more than just fists. Unity would be their shield. Week by week, tensions escalated. Briar's gang intensified their harassment, targeting not just Emmeline but anyone who dared support her. Tavian West, leader of a neighboring school's notorious clique, caught wind of the conflict and saw an opportunity. A meeting of the bullies was arranged in a shadowed alley after school. Tavian's reputation for brutality was well earned, and his interest in Lincoln High's internal power struggle promised to amplify the chaos. Emmeline learned of this alliance through whispered rumors, her pulse quickening like a warning bell. She recognized the urgency to act before the situation spiraled beyond control. Under Thaddeus Crow's guidance, Emmeline's training intensified. He pushed her to hone her precision and control, emphasizing that true strength diffused conflict, not dominated it. "You fight not to harm, but to end fights swiftly with minimum damage," he preached. Their sessions became a crucible, strengthening her body and sharpening her mind for the battles ahead. Michaela and Serafina also joined the regimen, weaving statements of solidarity and empowerment into their growing circle. Emmeline's leadership blossomed, a beacon for those who sought courage in the face of adversity. One afternoon, Briar's gang ambushed Emmeline between classes, their usual taunts replaced by reckless aggression. Emmeline remained calm, sidestepping their haphazard blows, disarming their attempts with measured responses. Kellen lunged forward, but Emmeline blocked the strike, twisting his wrist with a practiced maneuver that sent him staggering. Jason rushed in to intervene, only to meet Emmeline's precise counterattack that left him winded. Briar's confident facade flickered as he realized Emmeline's skills surpassed mere self-defense. They were a calculated force. The confrontation ended with Briar retreating, nursing bruised pride rather than wounds. The momentum shifted. Stories of Emmeline's resilience spread throughout Lincoln High, emboldening others to resist intimidation. Serafina rallied the girls to stand firm, while Michaela extended support to those who suffered in silence. Even some of Briar's former followers reconsidered their loyalties as the social tides turned. Yet Briar himself remained defiant, vowing to reclaim his dominance. Late-night texts and veiled threats hinted at ruthless plans, but Emmeline refused to be cowed. Each challenge fortified her will, and her circle's unity strengthened in response to the mounting pressure. A decisive moment arrived when Tavian West and his crew invaded Lincoln High during lunch. their presence an unsettling disruption. Their verbal antagonism quickly escalated, corners of the cafeteria emptying as students watched the brewing storm. Emmeline stepped forward, flanked by Serafina, Michaela, and a handful of trusted friends. Tavian's sneer deepened. "You're outnumbered," he jeered. Emmeline's gaze was unflinching. Strength is not always in numbers. It's in courage and conviction. The standoff crackled with tension, the air thick with potential violence. Suddenly, Emmeline advanced with practiced grace, dispersing the crowd with swift moves that showcased both skill and restraint. The aftermath left Tavian's reputation dented and his crew scattered. Briar watched from a distance, his resentment brewing, but tempered by respect for Emmeline's unyielding spirit. The school's atmosphere subtly transformed. No longer overshadowed by fear, students began reclaiming their halls with newfound confidence. Serafina's leadership fostered inclusion and support, turning Lincoln High from a battleground into a community. Emmeline, once a solitary newcomer, had become the pulse of that change, an emblem of quiet power that thrived not on dominance but on empathy and resilience. Despite these victories, Emmeline knew the war was far from over. Briar's shadow lingered, and Tavian's grudges promised future conflicts. One evening, Thaddeus Crow sat beside her beneath the bleachers, their voices low. "You've grown so much, Emmeline. But remember, true strength is as much about knowing when to fight as when to forgive." She nodded, the weight of leadership resting heavily yet purposefully on her shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges unseen, but armed with allies and inner resolve, she was prepared to face whatever storms came next. With the school year unfolding, Emmeline's journey had only just begun, a saga of courage, friendship, and transformation. As Briar's iron fist loosened, a new era of hope and unity dawned at Lincoln High, guided by a girl who refused to bow to fear. The next chapter promised trials and triumphs alike, and the bonds forged in adversity would prove unbreakable. The story of Emmeline Harris continued, inviting all to witness the awakening of a leader who dared to challenge the impossible. Strength revealed in the parking lot. Emmeline stood near the edge of the deserted parking lot, the fading sunlight casting long shadows over the asphalt. The cool evening air was thick with tension, her heart pounding in anticipation. At last, Briar Turner appeared, flanked by his usual entourage, Kellen Voss and Jason Merrick, both smirking confidently. Briar's tall figure exuded arrogance as he folded his arms, his gaze locked onto Emmeline with a mixture of amusement and disdain. "You really think you can challenge me here, Harris?" he sneered, stepping forward. "Thought your quiet strategy would keep you safe at Lincoln High." Emmeline's expression remained calm, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "I'm not here to play games, Briar," she said in a steady voice. "I hoped you wouldn't force me to show who I truly am." Briar laughed harshly, turning toward his friends. "She's bluffing. This girl's all talk." Kellen chuckled, and Jason's grin deepened, but Emmeline didn't flinch. Instead, recalling the precise training sessions with Thaddeus Crow, her mentor's voice echoed in her mind. "Strike with purpose. Control your power. Confidence beats brute force every time." Briar took a step closer, clearly intending to intimidate. However, Emmeline noticed his unease and the brief hesitation in Kellen and Jason's stance. The bullying and taunts had escalated for weeks, but tonight would be the reckoning. Without hesitation, she broke the silence. "One-on-one. Right here, right now. If I win, you leave me alone, apologize publicly, and never mention my name again." Her voice was resolute, challenging. Briar raised his eyebrows, his smirk turning into a mocking laugh. "You? Fight me? Fine. No rules. Anything goes." The crowd of stray students nearby began to gather cautiously, whispers spreading like wildfire. Even Serafina Martin, The steadfast leader of the girls' group, who had become Emmeline's ally, watched from a distance, her expression unreadable yet supportive. Michaela Anders, Emmeline's closest friend and a student in her self-defense classes, stood by nervously. The atmosphere was electrified. This fight meant more than pride. It was about control, freedom, and reputation at Lincoln High. Briar shed his hoodie, revealing the sinewy strength honed by years on the football field, his muscles taut under the fading sunlight. Emmeline pulled off her sweatshirt, exposing the lean contours shaped by countless drills with Thaddeus. She was smaller, but her stance radiated confidence, her eyes fierce and unwavering. The first move was Briar's. He lunged with a powerful jab aimed straight at her face. Emmeline sidestepped smoothly, her forearm rising in a swift, defensive block. It was a precise motion, born from disciplined training rather than raw power. Before Briar could recover, Emmeline countered with a blistering left hook to his solar plexus. The impact was concise and devastating, causing Briar to gasp, his body folding slightly as breath escaped him. He staggered but tried to regain control, throwing a wild right hook that Emmeline narrowly avoided. Watching Briar's frustrated movements, Kellen and Jason shifted uneasily, sensing the imbalance. Emmeline used her agility to deliver a spinning kick, targeting Briar's ribs. The strike landed cleanly, eliciting a grunt of pain. The fight's pace intensified. Emmeline's fluid combinations, strikes, blocks, and grapples, contrasted sharply with Briar's raw, aggressive force. With a swift takedown, Emmeline threw him onto the ground. Briar struggled to rise, but a determined knee strike to his midsection kept him subdued. He looked up, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "How?" he managed to gasp, his arrogance shattered. Emmeline leaned in, her voice cold yet controlled. "The first rule of fighting, never underestimate your opponent." Suddenly, the nearby students erupted in whispers and gasps, many impressed and amazed. Serafina nodded approvingly, shouting encouragement. Michaela's eyes gleamed with pride. Briar's pride, on the other hand, had been bruised beyond repair. Hemmed in by defeat, he eventually swallowed his pride and agreed to the terms: public apology, leaving Emmeline alone and ceasing his reign of bullying. The unspoken shift of power rippled through Lincoln High, altering the social dynamics forever. In the days following the battle, Emmeline's courage inspired many. The taunts and harassment ceased, replaced by cautious respect. Even Briar maintained a quiet distance, occasionally exchanging nods as if recognizing a worthy adversary. Serafina and Michaela approached Emmeline, suggesting collaborations to widen their self-defense courses and support groups for those who struggled against bullying. The momentum was building, turning isolated resistance into a movement. Yet, beyond the victory, the true test was just beginning. Word reached them of Tavian West, the notorious leader of bullies from the neighboring school. Tavian's reputation for intimidation and disruption was well known in the region. Emmeline sensed that Booth's fight was just a preview, a spark in the tinderbox, with Tavian poised to ignite a larger struggle. Conversations with Thaddeus reinforced this realization. "You've set the stage," he said during a quiet training session, "but now you must prepare. The challenge ahead will demand every lesson we've shared. The fight is not just for you, it's for every person who has felt powerless." Emmeline's resolve hardened. The parking lot fight had become a defining moment, not only proving her strength but awakening something essential within her. It was a symbol of resistance, courage, and change. Lincoln High's halls echoed differently now, whispers replaced by conversations about empowerment and unity. Every strike she threw that night echoed far beyond bruises and wounds. It echoed in hearts and minds, signaling a new era. As twilight deepened, Emmeline packed her gear and prepared to leave, her mind already racing with strategies to confront the broader threats looming on the horizon. The support of allies like Serafina and Michaela fueled her determination. The quiet strength she'd concealed was now a beacon, drawing others toward hope and protection. The lessons learned in the parking lot would serve as the foundation for what was to come. The next chapter of her journey was unfolding, and though uncertainty loomed, one truth remained clear. Emmeline Harris was no longer just a survivor. She was a leader, a warrior, and a symbol. Briar's defeat was but the beginning, setting into motion events that would challenge everything at Lincoln High and beyond. As she stepped away from the empty parking lot, the night embraced her, quietly bearing witness to a strength revealed and a battle just beginning. Defending the defenseless at the bus stop. The afternoon sun dipped low over Lincoln High as Emmeline Harris made her way toward the familiar bus stop nestled near the edge of campus. It was a quiet corner where a small group of students often gathered before heading home, and today, Serafina Martin and her friends had claimed their usual spots. Serafina, with an air of calm authority, led her circle of girls who often faced unwelcome attention from the neighboring school's troublemakers. Among the chatter, a shadow appeared on the sidewalk, a group of 5 boys, their confident strides announcing they were no strangers to confrontation. Leading them was Tavian West, the notorious instigator from Westside High, flanked by Kellan Voss and Jason Merrick, familiar faces in the school's whispered warnings. Emmeline's senses sharpened as Tavian's smirk, broad and unsettling, settled on Serafina's group. The gang exuded menace with deliberate charm, their eyes glittering with the promise of trouble. As Tavian approached, his height seemed exaggerated by sheer arrogance. "Well, well, look who's here," he proclaimed with vocal bravado. "Our favorite little princess and her court." His voice echoed with mockery, while Kellen and Jasion circled like wolves, sizing up potential prey. Serafina straightened, her voice steady but laced with unease. "Leave us alone, Tavian. We have nothing to say to you." The tension thickened, the gap between the two groups charged with anticipation. Before the bullying could escalate, Emmeline stepped quietly forward, her gaze locking with Tavian's. "Excuse me," she said firmly, each word laced with unshakable resolve. Her arrival surprised everyone, not least Tavian, whose eyes narrowed as if measuring her worth swiftly and, as usual, dismissively. "Who are you again?" he sneered, spreading his arms like a predator about to pounce. "You think you can tell us where to go?" In response, Emmeline's posture did not falter. Instead, a stillness spread, a palpable force emanating from calm determination honed by years of discipline. This was a girl who knew the meaning of strength without time out for theatrics. The youngest member of the group, Michaela Anders, glanced at Emmeline with admiration and a flicker of hope. Michaela had been one of Emmeline's earliest recruits in self-defense classes, and witnessing this confrontation firsthand made the lessons more real than ever. The bullies were known for pushing boundaries, and Michaela's heart pounded in sync with the rising challenge, quietly promising she would never be too afraid to stand against such threats again. Behind Emmeline, Thaddeus Crow, her coach and mentor, observed silently from the sidelines. Years of rigorous training under his guidance had instilled in her precise control, and he knew any wrong move could either escalate or dissolve conflict. Tavian ignored the warnings in Emmeline's steady gaze, stepping forward while his cronies flanked him menacingly. He spoke with mock innocence laced with menace. "You should move along, sweetheart. This isn't your fight." The insult hung heavy in the air, fueling a fire that Emmeline carefully contained until the moment was right. Tavian's confidence was grounded in numbers and muscle, dismissing her as an insignificant obstacle. However, he underestimated the spirit fortified not just by strength, but by unyielding principle. "I'm not going anywhere," Emmeline declared. "The bus will arrive soon, and I suggest you move aside before this turns ugly." The shift was subtle but immediate. Tavian's grin twisted briefly as he registered the unexpected defiance. It was a challenge he neither anticipated nor welcomed. Kellan and Jason moved forward, tightening the circle, their expressions masking confusion and irritation. They had dealt with resistance before, but never the composed kind that promised consequences. The group's dynamic shifted. They were no longer hunting vulnerable prey, but confronting a force that dared to stand its ground. The air vibrated with potential energy, and the few bystanders held their breath, sensing the brewing storm. In a flash, Tavian lunged, aiming to intimidate with brute force. Emmeline's response was instinctual, yet refined. A slight sidestep, her forearm meeting the strike with the practiced precision of a seasoned fighter. The attack glanced off harmlessly, her movement fluid, her control absolute. She retaliated with a firm yet measured counterattack, a planted strike delivering a calculated blow to the aggressor's torso. The impact forced Tavian to stagger, his breath caught unexpectedly. Shock flickered across his features, a silent acknowledgement of underestimation. The instant was a revelation to the onlookers. Emmeline was not just another girl, she was a guardian. Kellan rushed forward with anger flaring in his eyes, but found himself halted by Jason's startled gasp. Emmeline's glare pinned the duo as she advanced, her movements deliberate and calm, forcing them to reconsider the consequences of their aggression. 2 minutes, she conveyed with razor-sharp clarity, to leave before this ends badly for one of you. The command was unlike any they had heard, grounded in absolute certainty and an unshakable promise that was both a weapon and a shield. Their bravado wavered, the earlier cockiness replaced with uneasy calculation. The atmosphere shifted as Tavian's group hesitated, glancing at one another. The strength Emmeline exuded was not just physical, but carried the weight of principle and community backing. Sensing the tide turning, the aggressors began retreating, their footsteps heavy with reluctant respect. Serafina and her friends exchanged looks of relief and newfound hope. This was the first time they had seen someone face Tavian's crew without buckling or pleading. Emmeline turned to Serafina and offered a rare, brief smile. "You are safe now," she assured them. "Luck is no longer needed." But in the distance, Briar Turner watched from a shadowed doorway, his expression clouded with resentment. Once the unchallenged ruler of Lincoln High's social battleground, he had quietly observed the changing tides with discomfort. Briar's companions, Kellan and Jason, had long served as his loyal lieutenants, enforcing his will through fear and dominance. Now, seeing him outmaneuvered by a lone newcomer like Emmeline bruised more than his ego, it threatened his control. The warnings he had ignored before echoed ominously in his mind. This disruption was unlike anything anticipated, and Briar's fists clenched in uneasy silence. As the crowd dispersed and the bus finally approached, a new narrative took root within Lincoln High's halls. Emmeline had proven not only the strength of her body, but the weight of her courage. Teachers whispered about her with admiration. Students looked to her as more than a fighter, but a protector. Serafina's group found renewed confidence in their presence, openly sharing tales of the encounter as a turning point. Even Michaela's steady gaze carried the flame of empowerment. The lessons Emmeline had imparted in the gym now breathed life within the schoolyard's reality. Later that evening, Thaddeus Crow met Emmeline at the dojo, his voice steady yet proud. "You delivered exactly what I taught you, control, restraint, and strength wrapped in purpose." Emmeline exhaled deeply, the adrenaline fading to a simmer. "It feels like something changed today." She looked toward the mirrored walls where countless hours of practiced discipline reflected back. "Not just out there," Thaddeus replied gently. "Inside you. The quiet confidence of a leader ready to protect, guide, and stand unshaken." The path ahead was clearer, but still uncertain as Briar Turner's shadow loomed, promising challenges that would push Emmeline further. This confrontation was a microcosm of a larger struggle unfolding within Lincoln High, a battle between fear and empowerment, silence and voice, oppression and resistance. Emmeline understood that each act of courage rippled outward, weaving a tapestry of hope through a community that had long endured in shadows. The night settled around Maplewood, soft and expectant as Emmeline prepared for whatever dawn might bring. The true test of her promise was only just beginning. The next day, whispers of the bus stop incident spread like wildfire across the school, setting the stage for deeper transformations. Emmeline's careful balance of strength and compassion had not only challenged the bullies, but ignited something within the heart of Lincoln High's student body. Change was no longer a distant hope, but a growing reality. One fight, one stand, one unyielding spirit at a time, building a legacy of self-defense. Emmeline Harris had always carried a quiet strength, a flame smoldering just beneath the surface, tempered by years of hardship and relentless training. Now, standing in the hushed gymnasium at Lincoln High, she felt the weight of responsibility settle firmly on her shoulders. The room was modest, yet filled with anticipation, as a group of students gathered for the first session of her self-defense classes. Among the eager faces stood Michaela Anders, a close friend who had been her stalwart supporter from the beginning. Michaela's eyes shone with determination, mirroring Emmeline's own resolve to transform fear into confidence, not just for herself but for everyone here. Across the room, several students fidgeted nervously, casting glances toward Emmeline with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. They had heard whispers about the fierce newcomer who had stood up to Briar Turner and his gang, the tales of her swift justice echoing through the school corridors. Yet many still grappled with their own doubts. Could they truly learn to protect themselves in a world that sometimes seemed hostile and unforgiving? Emmeline's voice broke the silence with calm authority as she began, "Self-defense is more than fighting. It's about knowing your boundaries, recognizing danger early, and having the courage to act when it matters most." Her words struck a chord, planting seeds of hope amid uncertain hearts. Guided by Thaddeus Crowe, her seasoned mentor and trainer, Emmeline designed a curriculum that balanced physical skills with mental discipline. Thaddeus, a quiet man with a presence as solid as granite, believed that strength without control was meaningless. He watched the early sessions with a discerning eye, occasionally stepping in to offer sage advice or correct form. His partnership gave Emmeline the confidence to lead a program focused on empowerment rather than aggression. "Remember," Thaddeus reminded the group during one drill, "the best defense is often to avoid conflict altogether. But if it reaches you, strike with precision and purpose." Kellen Voss and Jason Merrick, longtime allies of Briar Turner, observed the growing influence of Emmeline's classes with thinly veiled disdain. The two had been instrumental in perpetuating the school's former culture of intimidation and disrespect. They whispered among themselves, condescending about the idea of self-defense, fluttering through the halls like some fleeting fad. Their attitude mirrored Briar's lingering resentment, a stubborn ember refusing to die down. Despite their persistent scheming, a subtle shift was occurring. Students who once cowered were beginning to stand a little straighter, their confidence blossoming under Emmeline's guidance. Serafina Martin, a respected figure among the female students and an unwavering ally, emerged as a vital force supporting this transformation. Charismatic and fiercely loyal, Serafina's leadership galvanized her peers to participate actively in the lessons. "We deserve to feel safe here," she told Emmeline during one planning meeting. "Your classes are giving us tools, not just to fight back physically, but to reclaim our space." Their collaboration drew more students from diverse backgrounds, creating a tapestry of shared experiences and collective ambition. The once fragmented student body found unity in the cause of protection and dignity. Word spread quickly beyond the gym's walls. Teachers noticed a palpable difference in the school's atmosphere, an undercurrent of mutual respect and a decrease in petty disputes and bullying incidents. Principal Anderson called Emmeline to his office one afternoon, flanked by a committee comprising faculty and parent representatives. "Miss Harris," he began, his tone formal yet warm, "your initiative has brought promising change to Lincoln High. We are considering integrating self-defense training into our physical education curriculum." The proposition thrilled Emmeline, but also introduced new challenges as official recognition meant balancing expectations and preserving the class's original spirit. Tavian West, leader of a group of older students from the neighboring district, had initially dismissed Emmeline's efforts as trivial play acting. Known for his intimidation tactics and loyalty to Breyer's old regime, Tavian saw the rising tide of self-defense as a threat to the established order he commanded. His presence at various confrontations became more frequent, often accompanied by his entourage, a deliberate show of force aimed at unsettling Emmeline's growing supporters. However, his bravado faltered when confronted by the palpable determination radiating from Emmeline's followers, now better prepared and emboldened. Michaela Anders evolved from a supportive friend into a central figure within the self-defense community. Her natural empathy and steady courage encouraged others to push past their fears. She often stayed late after sessions to help tailor exercises for students with specific concerns, nurturing an inclusive environment. "It's incredible to see everyone changing, not just physically but mentally," Michaela confided during a team meeting. "We're rewriting what it means to be strong here." Their combined efforts forged a safe space where vulnerability was met with understanding instead of judgment. Each session unfolded with meticulous care. The group practiced escapes from holds, blocking techniques, and strategic strikes, accompanied by discussions on situational awareness and emotional resilience. Emmeline emphasized that real strength included listening to one's instincts and preserving one's integrity. "Control your anger, but never your courage," she urged. Rumors of these classes attracted curious students, even those who had once been indifferent or skeptical, broadening the growing sphere of influence. Behind the scenes, Thaddeus Crowe negotiated with the school administration to secure better training facilities and equipment, recognizing that formal support was essential for the program's longevity. He also coached Emmeline in public speaking and leadership, preparing her to represent the class at board meetings and community events. His steady mentorship reinforced that true leadership required patience and the ability to inspire others, especially when facing resistance from entrenched power structures. Transformation rippled outward. The sidelines of school events no longer carried whispered fears, but instead echoed with laughter and cheers for those trying new techniques. Stories of small victories circulated. A girl who had previously been intimidated by a locker room encounter now stood assertively when challenged. A boy who had avoided confrontation learned that strength was not synonymous with violence, but responsibility. These shifts created an atmosphere where protection became a shared value rather than an imposed rule. The antagonists' attempts to undermine Emmeline's work grew increasingly desperate. Kellen and Jason staged subtle disruptions during class times, tried to spread misinformation, and favored isolating participants. Each attempt was met with resilience, the group's camaraderie and trust proving stronger than their fear. Emmeline's diplomacy and focus ensured that even these challenges served as lessons, reinforcing that adversity was part of the journey toward empowerment. Emmeline's relationship with Serafina deepened, blending friendship with mutual respect. Serafina's understanding of social dynamics within the school helped in recruiting reluctant students and bridging divides. She spearheaded outreach to students who had historically been marginalized, integrating their voices into the sessions and expanding the movement's reach. Together, they crafted strategies to counteract bullying by fostering alliances and nurturing empathy, reshaping the school's social fabric. As the semester progressed, more faculty members endorsed the classes, recognizing the benefits beyond physical defense, improved self-esteem, conflict resolution skills, and emotional intelligence. The principal's vision for institutional support became clearer, potentially making Lincoln High a pioneer in incorporating proactive safety education. This acknowledgement affirmed Emmeline's belief that change required collective action and systemic commitment, not just individual courage. One afternoon, an unforeseen test arrived when Tavian confronted Emmeline in the school corridor, scrutinizing her with a mixture of challenge and grudging respect. The meeting was tense but civil, an unspoken acknowledgement of the shifting balance of power. Tavian admitted to having underestimated the impact of the self-defense classes and, while wary, hinted at reconsidering his stance. This nuanced interaction signaled a possible thawing in hostilities and opened avenues for dialogue between opposing groups. Amidst these developments, Emmeline found solace in moments of quiet reflection guided by Thaddeus's wisdom. She learned to harness her own vulnerabilities, understanding that leadership was as much about humility as it was about strength. Her growing circle, including Michaela and Serafina, became pillars supporting her vision, transforming the gym into more than a training space. It became a sanctuary where courage was nurtured and shared. Concurrent with her duties, Emmeline documented progress meticulously, preparing reports and testimonials to present to the city council and educational boards. Her compelling narratives illustrated the tangible benefits of the program and its potential for wider adoption. These efforts heightened public interest and attracted invitations for speaking engagements, slowly elevating her role from student leader to community advocate. Meanwhile, the transformed school atmosphere made Lincoln High a safer, more inclusive environment. Students who once felt isolated embraced newfound confidence, and bullying incidents declined markedly. The powerful symbol of change was embodied not just in Emmeline's classes, but in the altered behavior of formerly antagonistic figures like Briar Turner, who began supporting the effort, reshaping himself as a defender rather than a tormentor. Conversations about personal safety became normalized, intertwining with broader discussions on respect and empathy. The initiative sparked creative collaborations with local organizations focusing on youth empowerment and mental health. Emmeline's experience provided a blueprint, showcasing how a single determined individual could catalyze lasting community transformation. Her story inspired others to recognize their inner strength and take action. As winter approached, plans solidified for expanding the classes to nearby schools, with Thaddeus coordinating joint workshops and training more instructors to amplify the message. Partnerships formed with law enforcement and health professionals to deliver holistic programs addressing physical safety and psychological well-being. Emmeline embraced this expansive role, balancing the demands with her academic pursuits and personal growth. Throughout this journey, Emmeline remained mindful of the delicate balance between strength and compassion. She continued to model the principle that true power is wielded responsibly, with kindness as its foundation. This philosophy resonated deeply, challenging preconceptions and fostering a culture where every student felt valued and protected. One evening, as the last of her students filed out of the gym following a rigorous session, Emmeline sat quietly with Thaddeus, contemplating the path ahead. The shadows outside deepened, but within the walls, hope burned brighter than ever. "You have done more than teach defense," Thaddeus remarked softly. "You have ignited a legacy." Emmeline nodded, aware that the journey was far from over, but confident in the strength of the community they had built. The coming weeks promised new challenges and opportunities. Briar Turner's transformation continued. Kellen and Jagion reeled from the shifting tides, and Tavian's tentative openness suggested possibilities for reconciliation. Emmeline's initiative had not only protected her peers, but had begun rewriting the narrative of fear into one of empowerment. As she prepared to face the unfolding days, she understood that the true battle was not merely physical, but cultural, changing minds, breaking cycles, and nurturing courage in the face of uncertainty. Lincoln High was becoming more than a school. It was a beacon proving that with the right tools and unwavering spirit, even the most ingrained adversity could be overcome. The story of Emmeline Harris and her self-defense classes was far from finished. It was a living, breathing saga of transformation, resilience, and hope. Ahead lay new chapters filled with unexpected allies, unforeseen trials, and triumphs yet to be celebrated. The seeds planted in that humble gym were taking root, destined to grow and spread far beyond the town of Maplewood. With determination lighting her path, Emmeline rose from the worn bench, ready to step boldly into the next phase of her journey, knowing that every small victory brought her closer to changing the world, one courageous soul at a time, facing public trial and standing strong. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Emmeline Harris took her seat. The air was thick with anticipation, the scattered murmurs of onlookers barely a whisper compared to the storm inside her mind. Tavian West, leader of the antagonistic group from the neighboring school, sat skimming through his notes, flanked by his lieutenants, Briar Turner, Kellen Voss, and Jason Merrick. Emmeline's allies, Serafina Martin and Michaela Anders, sat nearby, their expressions a mixture of determination and quiet support. Emmeline's mentor, Thaddeus Crowe, sat in the back. His calm presence steadied her nerves. The trial was set to decide if she had truly acted in self-defense or crossed the line into aggression. The prosecution wasted no time. Their opening statement was an orchestrated narrative meant to paint Emmeline as a violent instigator, a young woman whose actions provoked the turmoil. Tavian's attorney described his client as a victim of unprovoked assault, emphasizing the escalation from a minor schoolyard conflict to an incident warranting legal intervention. Yet Emmeline felt no fear. Her years of training had taught her to stay composed under pressure, to answer attacks with resolve rather than haste. One by one, witnesses took the stand. Serafina Martin spoke first, her voice unwavering as she recounted the weeks of intimidation her group faced from Tavian and his cronies. She detailed the threats, the unwanted advances, and the days their lives were shadowed by fear. Her testimony was not just facts, but an emotional testimony to the climate of harassment. Michaela and other students corroborated the accounts, describing similar experiences that painted a stark picture of Tavian's aggression. Even Briar Turner, though seated with the opposition, could not entirely conceal his discomfort during the testimonies. The weight of evidence against their claims seemed to grow heavier with each word spoken. Thaddeus Crowe listened closely, nodding subtly as he recorded points for the defense to emphasize. When it was Emmeline's turn, the room seemed to quiet further, every eye fixed on her as she rose steadily to face the judges. Emmeline spoke with clarity beyond her years. She explained her disciplined background in martial arts, trained under Thaddeus's guidance, her cautious decision to conceal her talents for the sake of peace, and how that peace was shattered by ongoing torment. She narrated how, on the day in question, her actions were not the start of conflict, but a necessary end to protect herself and those around her. Her tone was firm yet introspective. She acknowledged the seriousness of her punches and strikes, but made clear it was always measured to avoid unnecessary harm. The opposing counsel attempted to pry, questioning every detail, probing for inconsistencies or signs of boastfulness. But Emmeline's responses were measured, calmly refusing to be baited into defensive outbursts. She emphasized that her intent was never to inflict damage outside the bounds of self-preservation. To the jury, she was not just recounting events, but asserting a fundamental right to stand strong in the face of bullying and intimidation. Outside the courtroom, the community hovered on edge. News outlets had caught wind of the high-profile case, and debate raged about the line between defending oneself and promoting violence. Yet it was in quiet conversations, whispers exchanged in hallways, and social media posts that Emmeline's message began to take shape. Resilience, responsibility, and the courage to face fear head-on. Through the days of the trial, the support from friends and classmates bolstered her spirit. Serafina organized meetings, gathering testimonies and evidence that further strengthened Emmeline's case. Michaela, though still healing from her own past encounters, stood by her friend's side with unwavering loyalty. Even some of Tavian's former associates, uncomfortable with the path their leader chose, gave statements highlighting the escalating nature of his harassment. The pivotal moment arose when Thaddeus Crow took the stand. His role was not just as a coach, but as a witness to Emmeline's character, a mentor who had observed her growth from a cautious newcomer to a confident young woman committed to justice. He explained the philosophy behind her training, that true strength lay in restraint, in knowing when to hold back and when to act decisively. He affirmed that Emmeline had always advocated for peace and had only resorted to physical defense when all other avenues failed. As the trial drew to a close, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. What began as a tense confrontation evolved into a profound discussion about courage, bullying, and the power of standing up for oneself. The jury retreated to deliberate, and the community waited with bated breath for the verdict, the weight of months of trials and triumphs hanging in the air. In those moments of waiting, Emmeline found solace in the memories of the support she'd found. Serafina's fierce loyalty, Michaela's quiet courage, Thaddeus's steady guidance, and even the grudging respect from some who once doubted her. She knew this trial was about more than just a single incident. It symbolized the fight for dignity that so many silent victims endured daily. The knock on the courtroom door shook her from thought. The jury had reached a decision. As the foreman announced the unanimous verdict of not guilty, cheers and applause erupted softly among her supporters. Emmeline allowed herself a small, victorious smile, knowing this moment marked a turning point not just in her own life, but in the lives of countless others. The aftermath of the trial brought change. The community, once divided, began to unite around shared principles of respect and protection. Emmeline's self-defense classes filled with eager students. Teachers worked with her to establish anti-bullying initiatives, and local leaders invited her to speak on youth empowerment. Tavian West and his accomplices, stripped of their intimidation power, faced their own journeys toward accountability. Emmeline, however, remained focused on the future. She and Thaddeus mapped out plans to expand her programs, extending beyond her school to the neighboring districts, inspired by the belief that knowledge and preparedness were the best defenses against harm. Serafina and Michaela continued to build the network of allies who shared their commitment to create safe spaces for all students. Though the trial was over, Emmeline knew the journey to true strength was ongoing. She had seen firsthand the complexity of justice and the resilience required to stand tall amid adversity. The lessons learned would guide her both in and out of the ring. And as she looked ahead, she welcomed the challenges yet to come, confident that with community, courage, and conviction, she could face any storm. The story was far from finished, and the next chapter beckoned with new trials and opportunities, each one shaping the remarkable path of Emmeline Harris. Growth, leadership, and lasting change. Emmeline Harris stood before the student body, her voice steady and clear, marking the beginning of a new era at Lincoln High. Her recent election as student council president was more than a badge of honor. It was a responsibility she embraced wholeheartedly. Drawing on her own turbulent experiences, she vowed to dismantle the long-standing hierarchy built on fear and intimidation. Where Briar Turner and his allies once ruled through dominance, Emmeline envisioned a community founded on respect and understanding. The school's daunting social fabric began to unravel as dialogues replaced confrontations. With the support of allies like Serafina Martin and Michaela Anders, Emmeline initiated the creation of an honor court. This unique system focused on mediation rather than punishment, allowing offenders to recognize their misdeeds and seek genuine change. The court operated under the philosophy that restoring harmony was more vital than instilling fear. Through restorative justice, students learned empathy and accountability, which transformed interactions across campus. Those formerly loyal to Breyer, such as Kellen Voss and Jason Merrick, started questioning their roles within the school's social order. As Emmeline led the charge, Breyer Turner found himself at a crossroads. Once a menacing figure, his earlier arrogance gave way to reflection and, eventually, repentance. His transformation was gradual, spurred by Emmeline's unwavering strength and the shifting attitudes of their peers. Breyer ceased his antagonistic behavior, even volunteering to assist younger students facing similar challenges. His evolution demonstrated that leadership committed to positive change can reach even the most unlikely individuals. Though wary at first, Emmeline recognized Breyer's sincere efforts to amend his past. The growing influence of Emmeline extended beyond Lincoln High's walls as news of her leadership attracted attention throughout Maplewood. Parents and teachers alike praised her initiatives for cultivating a safer and more inclusive environment. Principal Anderson, once cautious, became an enthusiastic advocate, integrating self-defense and conflict resolution into the school's official curriculum. The involvement of Thaddeus Crowe, Emmeline's dedicated trainer and mentor, lent professional credibility to her programs. Together, they designed holistic workshops emphasizing both physical preparedness and emotional resilience. Amidst her expanding responsibilities, Emmeline nurtured deep bonds with peers who had faced hardship alongside her. Serafina Martin emerged as a formidable ally, leading a group of empowered girls who once feared intimidation from Tavian West's gang at the neighboring school. Their alliance symbolized unity among those once divided by social pressures. Michaela Anders, a steadfast friend and avid participant in Emmeline's self-defense classes, contributed by organizing community outreach events. Together, they demonstrated that collective action could disrupt cycles of bullying and violence. Despite the progress, the echoes of past conflicts occasionally resurfaced. Tavian West, a formidable rival with a penchant for provocation, maintained a tense rivalry with Emmeline's circle. Yet even Tavian began to observe the growing confidence and solidarity within Lincoln High's student body. Public confrontations diminished as Emmeline's presence inspired courage in others. Her leadership instilled a culture where standing up did not mean standing alone. Students found strength in numbers and principles. The balance of power shifted from intimidation to respect. Emmeline's presidency also sparked personal growth. She juggled academic pursuits with her leadership duties, striving to exemplify diligence and humility. Her evenings often ended in the gym, where she trained under Thaddeus Crowe's watchful eye, honing skills that had once been hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. This ongoing discipline reinforced the message she imparted. True strength lies not only in combat, but in conviction and character. Emmeline inspired many by embodying the change she wished to see. The school's once divided factions gradually coalesced around new shared ideals. Incidents of bullying decreased sharply, and students who had previously felt powerless now advocated for fairness and kindness. Initiatives like peer mentoring and conflict resolution workshops flourished, giving voice to those who felt overlooked. Emmeline ensured that policies supported inclusivity, and the administration responded by allocating resources to sustain this renewed ethos. Together, the community embraced a future where respect was the norm, not the exception. One of Emmeline's proudest accomplishments was transforming the school's social dynamics. Where fear had reigned through figures like Breyer, now cooperation and mutual understanding defined student relationships. Her leadership was neither authoritarian nor punitive. Rather, it was visionary and compassionate. Emmeline fostered a space where difference was celebrated and personal strengths were encouraged to flourish. Her journey from a guarded newcomer to a revered leader served as an enduring testament to resilience and empathy. Beyond Lincoln High, Emmeline's influence began to ripple through the broader Maplewood area. Invitations to speak at local events and youth organizations allowed her to extend her message of empowerment. Collaborating with community leaders, she advocated for curriculum reforms, emphasizing emotional intelligence and conflict management. Many parents reached out, eager for resources to help their children navigate contemporary challenges. Emmeline's reach exemplified how determination and heart could transcend boundaries. As the academic year progressed, Emmeline's relationship with Briar matured into one of complex respect. Though their past remained a reminder of what had been overcome, it also served as a foundation for future cooperation. Briar's commitment to positive change underscored the impact of Emmeline's leadership on individuals as well as the institution. Their evolving dynamic helped dispel lingering doubts about redemption and growth. Together with allies such as Kellen and Jason, who found avenues towards self-improvement, they symbolized the power of second chances. Meanwhile, Emmeline's mentorship of younger students and participation in extracurricular activities deepened her connection to the community. She balanced her days between academics, council meetings, and training sessions led by Thaddeus Crowe. Her demanding schedule did not diminish her enthusiasm. Instead, it motivated her to excel further. Emmeline's vision extended beyond immediate victories. She sought lasting change, empowering future generations to lead with integrity and courage. This mission guided her every choice. Michaela Anders, inspired by Emmeline's example, took on expanded roles within the self-defense program. Her outreach to underclassmen helped proliferate confidence and responsibility among younger students. The group's successes drew attention from local media, shining a spotlight on the transformative potential within Lincoln High. Serafina Martin leveraged her social capital to advocate for sustained support of these initiatives. Together, they built a network grounded in trust and mutual uplift, creating an environment where individual differences became sources of strength. The model of leadership Emmeline presented resonated deeply with many students who had once felt voiceless. The honor court, peer mentoring, and conflict resolution strategies became pillars of the new school culture. Behavioral issues declined as students prioritized communication and empathy. Faculty members noted increased engagement and reduced tension. Principal Anderson credited Emmeline's insight and passion for fueling this turnabout. Under her guidance, Lincoln High evolved from a place of division and intimidation into a hub of empowerment and community. As senior year unfolded, Emmeline contemplated her future with clarity and purpose. Though offers for athletic scholarships and professional opportunities surfaced, her primary focus remained on education and service. Psychology, with a minor in sports medicine, beckoned, aligning with her desire to support youth both mentally and physically. She envisioned a career that integrated her passions for mentorship and athleticism, inspired by the lessons learned under Thaddeus Crowe's tutelage. This blend reflected her commitment to holistic growth and healing. Among the proudest moments was the day Emmeline officially reinstated the Student Council's authority to foster fairness and inclusion. Her keynote speeches emphasized embracing one's true self while advocating for justice. She urged students to confront challenges with bravery and kindness, reminding them that protecting others was a powerful form of leadership. Emmeline's words ignited a sense of responsibility and hope, encouraging classmates to envision a future defined by authenticity rather than conformity. Her legacy was already taking shape. Throughout this transformative journey, Emmeline maintained a remarkable balance of humility and confidence. She listened attentively to diverse voices, welcoming feedback and adapting strategies. Her interactions were marked by sincerity and warmth, which endeared her to many. By confronting adversity with grace and determination, she embodied the very qualities she sought to instill in others. Emmeline's leadership proved that genuine change arises not from force, but from connection and courage. Across Lincoln High, the narrative of strength evolved from displays of dominance to expressions of empathy and support. The school's climate shifted palpably. Halls once shadowed by fear now echoed with collaboration and respect. Incidents that would have sparked conflict became opportunities for dialogue and resolution. Teachers reported improved classroom dynamics, and students exhibited increased self-esteem. Emmeline's vision had redefined power itself, illustrating that leadership grounded in heart could build enduring community. With the year drawing to a close, Emmeline reflected on the passage from a bullied newcomer to a change-maker steering an entire school toward harmony. The trials faced and overcome had sculpted her character and shaped her goals. She recognized that growth required vulnerability and persistence, that leadership demanded more than authority. The allies she'd gained, the systems she'd helped establish, and the futures she'd touched were tangible results of a steadfast commitment to justice and authenticity. Closing the chapter on this phase of her life, Emmeline prepared to pass the torch, confident that the seeds planted would continue to flourish. Her final acts as student council president centered on ensuring sustainability, training successors, formalizing programs, and cultivating support among staff and administration. She knew challenges would persist, but the foundations laid promised resilience. As Emmeline looked ahead, her spirit brimmed with anticipation for the next adventure, where her influence could expand even further. The next day ushered in new beginnings. Emmeline stood ready to embark on fresh endeavors, carrying the lessons of leadership, growth, and lasting change. The story of transformation at Lincoln High was far from over, signaling hope and strength for years to come. Embracing true strength and new horizons, Emmeline Harris stood in her room, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminating her thoughtful expression. It was the night before she would leave Maplewood, the quiet town that had given her both challenge and opportunity. A deep sense of reflection stirred within her, recalling the tumultuous journey from an uncertain new girl at Lincoln High to a respected figure who had changed the lives of so many. So much had happened since Brian Turner first confronted her, his fists clenched with arrogance, unaware that beneath her unassuming exterior lay a force both calm and resolute. The memories of those early days, when every step was shadowed by silent dangers, seemed distant yet ever vivid. She thought of Brian Turner, once the school's unchallenged ruler, now a transformed ally who had learned the meaning of respect and responsibility. The shift in his demeanor had been one of the most surprising outcomes of her arrival. No longer a tormentor, but someone who now sought instead to uplift younger students. Turner's evolution was a testament to the power of standing firm with integrity. His companions, Kellen Voss and Jason Merrick, had followed suit, their antagonistic shadows receding into quiet support. It was Serafina Martin, the courageous leader of the girls' group, who had first reached out to Emmeline, recognizing the strength that quietly radiated from her and rallying others to embrace self-confidence. Together, they had formed a community that refused to accept bullying as a norm. Emmeline's thoughts naturally wandered to the skirmishes at the bus stop, where Tavian West and his group had once held sway through intimidation. The confrontation had been swift and decisive, her training under Thaddeus Crowe, the steadfast mentor from Detroit, guiding every precise movement. That moment of defiance had not only deterred those aggressors, but had also inspired a ripple of courage throughout Lincoln High. The daily self-defense classes she launched afterward, supported faithfully by friends like Michaela Anders, grew to become a beacon of empowerment. Michaela's gentle enthusiasm and unwavering loyalty had made her an invaluable confidant, sharing both the trials and triumphs of molding a safer school environment. The transformation was tangible. Students who once cowered now learned to face challenges squarely. Her role as a mentor and leader took on new meaning with every meeting held in the school gym. More than physical techniques, Emmeline emphasized resilience, empathy, and the clarity to recognize when confrontation could be avoided. Strength, she often reminded her students, is the courage to protect, not to dominate. This philosophy slowly reshaped Lincoln High's atmosphere, shifting from wary silence to open solidarity. Teachers like Principal Anderson came to appreciate the profound change, endorsing the integration of self-defense into the official curriculum. Even Brian Turner found purpose in assisting the younger students, his previous aggression replaced by a quiet dignity that inspired respect in others. Yet, the journey had not been without its darkest moments. The public trial that arose from Travis Miller's false accusations tested Emmeline's resolve in ways no physical fight ever could. With the unwavering support of Serafina and those she had empowered, witnesses recounted the truth that she had only acted to defend herself and others. The courtroom became a battleground of words, but Emmeline's composed testimony revealed the depth of her character beyond mere physical prowess. The jury's unanimous verdict of not guilty resonated as a communal victory, restoring trust and affirming the rightful boundaries of self-defense. That legal challenge crystallized her mission: to equip others not only with skill, but with the confidence to stand firm against injustice. At the heart of this mission lay a profound personal transformation. Emmeline embraced her authentic self, understanding that the true strength she sought was never about masking her abilities or concealing her identity. Her mother, Sarah, had once urged caution, fearing the repercussions of exposure, but watching her daughter blossom into a leader who balanced power with compassion brought immeasurable pride. Emmeline's philosophy crystallized: living authentically demands bravery, but it opens a path to genuine connection and change. It was this conviction that led her to decline professional fighting offers, choosing instead to focus on education and mentorship, planting seeds of courage in others. Her final days at Lincoln High were marked by gratitude and renewed purpose. The Student Council presidency gave her a platform to dismantle lingering structures of fear, replacing them with systems of trust and reconciliation. Establishing the Honor Court embodied her belief in restorative justice, proving that transformation is more potent than punishment. Even Brian Turner acknowledged this shift, expressing heartfelt thanks for the pivotal lesson she had imparted. Their reconciliations symbolized the profound power of understanding and growth, embodying a message that echoed beyond the school's walls. Yet, as she prepared to board the train that would carry her to Chicago, Emmeline felt no fear of the unknown. The town that once felt suffocating had become a nurturing ground for her true potential. Letters from inspired youth, invitations to seminars, and invitations from surrounding communities all awaited her attention. They testified to a legacy she had forged not through dominance but through steadfast courage and kindness. The center she aspired to establish would amplify this impact, becoming a sanctuary for young leaders ready to rise. Her story was no longer just hers, but belonged to countless others who sought strength in their own unique ways. Long after the applause faded and the spotlight dimmed, Emmeline knew her journey was just beginning. The lessons learned in Maplewood had prepared her for a world that demanded both resilience and grace. Each challenge she overcame added layers to her identity as a protector and guide. Her departure marked not an end, but a continuation, a testament to what unfolds when one refuses to hide, choosing instead to illuminate the path for others. As the train rumbled forward, she gazed ahead with steady eyes, ready to embrace every struggle and triumph that lay beyond. The next chapter awaited, filled with promise and responsibility. Emmeline's story had already begun to inspire across towns and states, but the true test of her influence would emerge in the years to come. College would bring new arenas, unexpected trials, and opportunities to deepen her impact. Still, the foundation she had laid stood unshakable, rooted in courage, authenticity, and a commitment to protect the vulnerable. As the wheels clicked steadily beneath her, she allowed herself a moment of quiet resolve, knowing that wherever her journey took her, the strength she embraced would remain her guiding light.